Hello, everyone, to the monthly EVerest Technical Steering Committee meeting. It has been a short month for us because we're pulling this 1 week in to avoid putting this in the middle of the celebration time of the year. Still, there's quite a few new things. EVerest migrated to monorepo, which will make, I think, a lot of people out there happy because it will become way easier to use. There's a new release plan strategy, which reflected a lot of discussion the community had over the last weeks. There's Pionic Charge Bridge support now in the EVerest repo as new hardware driver, and have some updates from the first EVerest CPO forum with you to share. But before we jump in, let me quickly show you the antitrust policy. There might be competitors here in the room, so please behave. And now let's jump into the development update, and I will just hand over to Kai. No, to Pete. To hand over to Pete.
Kai could probably do it as well, but because
yes.
he did most of the work. But the steroids of the monorepository migration is that all major repositories have been merged to EVerest Core, including the existing issues. And I think most of the existing PRs in the old repos have either been merged or have been or will be migrated over. There is a new applications directory where EVerest Utils and EVerest Dev Environment and also the new Pionic Charge Bridge tool went. So you will find this in the top level. And yeah, there are some follow-up tasks that we need to address right now, which is adjusting some parts of the documentation throughout the existing code base, because some of that is pointing to still a multi-repository structure, which is outdated. We also want to rework the getting started guide, because also there it was like pointing to setting up your multi-repository workspace. You don't need this anymore, so it would probably be a lot easier. And I think we still have to make some adjustments to Meta EVerest and the Octo integration, but there are already draft PRs available for this. So all in all, that went quite fast, I would say.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah, we had that slide also 3 weeks ago. The new EVerest documentation is still in preview, and you can have a look and comment and provide feedback to the existing pull request. And we just wanted to highlight that one more time in this fall as well.
So let's go over to the framework updates.
Yeah, there was one change that was open for quite some time, but we found the time to test this properly at the testable, but also in other events and in the software in the loop. This is this refactoring of the message handler for improved thread handling and MQTT communication. This results in the fact that every subscribe, command, and error handler is now executed sequentially in every module. I know that lots of modules actually use logs and mutexes. That's not really required anymore, but it's also not too much of an overhead if they stay in there, but that technically that's not necessary anymore. I think we still need to document this a little bit because, of course, it influences the way you write modules as well. Yeah, then there was a pull request that enabled entering the virtual environment before starting the modules. And tidy pull request with some format and linting improvements. And the EVerest Framework repository has now been integrated in EVerest Core, as I mentioned before, and the repository has been archived, so no changes are possible anymore to this repository. So in case you have like local changes or want to contribute, you should do this in EVerest Core as of right now.
Updates to the cloud side of things, cloud communication side.
Yeah. Here we used the opportunity with the monorepo migration to finish up a couple of PRs. Those are mostly small things. There was also a Clang tidy pull request that was applied, a couple of small changes, and quite quite necessary for EVerest is that we now also report the meta public key configuration key via OSPP 1.6 according to the OCA white paper for the EVerest. As a configuration key. And also libOSPP has been integrated in EVerest Core. It hasn't been archived yet because there are some libraries that we plan to export, and libOSPP is one of them. I think libISO 15.11.8 and also CBX again or libCBV2G is one like our other ones. So we probably will reuse the existing ones because, of course, there was some traffic around those and people know them. So we plan to reuse them and may probably just close down the issue tracking.
Thanks. Car side of things.
Do you want to do it, Moritz, or I prepared it so I can quickly go through it if you like.
You do, please.
Okay. But actually, I think quite some ChargeByte contributions here. So I think the extension to the value-added services interface was added by ChargeByte. And there was ER1597, wait for peer-fin before closing the TCP socket. It's setting the response code to fault if fourth times out. A bigger one was a fix for multiple conformance tests for Slack that have been tested by ChargeByte as well. A configuration for the value-added services internet script. I think that the path can now be provided externally. The ISO 15.11.8 types have been extended by EV termination codes that can now be used. Another small change to the EVS V2G to switch D-Link action to the enum class. We have linked the project for ongoing contributions to libISO 15.11.8 down here. I think there's quite some effort currently going on of also starting the implementation of -2 in libISO 15.11.8, which is of course highly appreciated.
Yeah, so basically at the moment the -2 is in another library, and merging that all in one, I think that is a really, really cool goal. And then also getting everything modernized. So next one, the vulnerability management team. Kai, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. So the security audit that was sponsored by OSTIF and done by Quarks Lab in the summer of this year has been finished for quite some time. We have already applied for a couple of CVEs for the found problems that have already been fixed in I think even in the last release, like in October, or even earlier. So, but there will be a report based on this published, I think in the middle of January, with like a press release and things like that. That's that for that. And on the next slide, there was a new security issue found a couple weeks ago in the DZG power meter driver. There was basically an out-of-bounds read. If you had physical access to the serial bus, you could send messages over there that would crash the module. Since this shared code with the AST driver as well, this has also been patched there and is already fixed for a couple of days now. There will also be like a CVE number for that, but since it's probably pretty low since it needs physical access, it wasn't really super urgent to notify people about this, I think.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I'm looking forward to the big report. So monthly release notes. Who want to take that one?
I can take that. So we, I think, have some more slides later on about the new format of releases, but this is probably going to be the last month of the traditional monthly snapshots thing. So that's what's circled here, and probably hopefully in January, maybe in February, we can start with the proper stabilized releases. And yeah, on the next 3 slides, you can find a big list of things that have been merged since the November release that was announced but has never happened, because we immediately started work on the monorepo migration, and then we didn't want to basically release something that was an in-between state of some monorepo things and some non-monorepo things. So we waited, and since everything is done, it basically just needs like a version bump, which will happen either today or tomorrow, and then we can call it a December release with a monorepo of EVerest with a lot of fixes and additional functionality as a delta to the last release, especially to the last released release in October. So that's actually quite a long time ago.
Thanks a lot. So, and you already mentioned it, community proposal discussions, and there's so we have to vote on this in the TSC. So I will put into the emails and into the YouTube recording notes if they got accepted, but I'm quite confident because we had quite some discussions around that also behind the scenes. So let's see how that goes. Pete, you want to go through that?
Yes. So we talked
a lot about. You drove so much of this. I think that belongs to you.
Yeah. Yeah, there are some more dedicated slides about the release plan, but we also talked about how we can stabilize main. And Quello actually had a very good idea that is described on this slide. So the challenge that we have with EVerest is that it supports a very wide range of use cases and platforms, right? You can basically configure EVerest however you want. You can do AC/DC charging with a smaller feature set and a larger feature set, and there's a lot to configure and a lot to test, of course, as well. So rather than relying on the single test suite in the CI of EVerest Core, we thought about integrating the different systems of EVerest adopters, so charging station manufacturers or component suppliers that ship EVerest, that they can basically attach their own testing system to EVerest and into the CI. So the suggestion is to allow integration of distributed adopter test sets that are not specified by us or basically within EVerest, but by the adopters that want to contribute to it. And each adopter contributes automated tests that reflect their real deployment, so they can write these tests for their own hardware and infrastructure, basically. And yeah, we therefore extend the existing test suite and what we can do in the software in the loop. Yeah, quite a lot. And yeah, I think the details still need to be discussed and decided. So how this is integrated, if this runs on every PR or based on a nightly, it's still a little bit TBD, but the idea is that the participation is open. So anyone who's interested can opt in their system. And of course, it comes with a duty, which is keeping the testing alive. And if you want to stay close to, or basically you need to stay close to main, especially with API changes. So yeah, this is what you need to keep up to date. But the benefits for adopters are that you can basically test that main stays stable on your system. You have a faster detection of regressions in real-world setups. You probably increase your confidence of pulling and deploying EVerest continuously, like Quello already does, for example. Yeah, and for the project, it's of course also great if this, the whole testing is expanded across different adopters. Yeah, Quello already volunteered of adding their, I think, hardware in the loop test setup. Pionix also yeah, has ideas and also discussed this in the past a lot, how to integrate hardware in the loop testing and existing tools like the Pionix Cloud, and also we are participating in the OCTT test program as a golden SUT. So this is also part of what we like to include in this. And of course, we are open to more integrators. And of course, we know that there are some details still missing, like how this is actually done and specified. So we are also asking for who can take a lead on this to build this framework that enables the integration of different adapters and tests.
Thanks a lot. And I think regardless of how many unit tests you write on that code base, end of the day, you need a whole system test. But since EVerest is so flexible, there's like a trillion possible whole system definitions. And so which one should we test? Ideally, those ones which are really used. So if you use EVerest in the real world, would be great if we can test your setup and if you can help the community by putting your system in. And if you need help on that, I'm pretty sure someone will find time and to get you in there. Holger, anything to add? Because this was your proposal.
Nope, nothing to add. Besides that, I read today that GitHub now wants a couple of cents if you bring self-hosted runners, which makes this more expensive than planned, but discuss later.
Yes. At least the GitHub runners for EVerest is paid by the Linux Foundation Energy. Good. Release plan. And this is the big thing we already announced. Pete, back to you.
Yeah. Next to stabilizing main, we also talked in recent months about changing the release strategy that existed in EVerest for some reasons that I would like to explain. So what EVerest has today are monthly snapshot releases and consolidated releases every 3 months. Like what this has as a consequence is that there are currently at least no like highlighted stable release branches that can be used for backports. There's also no workflow or no policies for backporting critical bugs or fixes. The workload for preparing, testing, and stabilizing releases is not shared across the adapters. So many adapters use EVerest, but test the releases on their own. And in addition to this, if you stick to main or any of the existing releases right now, there's no guaranteed API stability across like different versions or different releases. And that's what we would like to change. Next slide, Marco. Yeah, we do see a great potential for leveraging the power of open source and the EVerest community for preparing, maintaining, and testing releases together. So we have a couple of suggestions that from which most of them go hand in hand. What we plan to do is to introduce a stable release cadence of every 6 months. And with that, also introduce stable release branches that can be used for backports and for stabilizing these releases. Would like to introduce a coordinated testing period before each major release, because this effort will go down the more we stabilize main as well. Because if we prove and extend the testing like described before, that will of course also help like getting out these releases and probably reduce the testing for it, the more there is already for main. If we want to do this, so if we want to do backports to stable releases, we somehow have to define what the public API, like officially define what the public API of EVerest is, so that adopters can be sure that they can safely update to a patched version. And we want to basically document this and introduce policies for this community maintenance of the latest stable release and discontinue the monthly snapshots, as Kai already mentioned. So the public API of EVerest, and this has also been discussed before within the community. It includes anything external users or integrators rely on, and to this we count the external async APIs that have been added, the JSON RPC API that ChargeByte has added for the integration of energy management systems, EVerest module configuration. This is the YAML file or the SQLite database from which the configuration can be read, OSPP configuration, and like internal module storages. So some modules use internal databases. Some of them use the persistent store module, but this also like needs to be stable and cannot break across patch releases that we do in the stable branches. So we would like to ensure that, or guarantee basically, go one step back, Marco, that no breaking changes are backported to the stable release branches. And yeah, we want to do a best effort approach to avoid and keep breaking changes to a minimum across major EVerest releases. And with major, I mean these every 6 month releases. The internal EVerest APIs are intentionally not part of that definition because they evolve quite quickly and are also not used by some of them are not used by adopters and purely used for internal module communication that shouldn't be exported. So we did not include this as part of the public API. Yeah, this comes with maybe slightly adjusted versioning, but we want to stick to the calendar-based versioning that we have with the year, the month, and a patch release incremental patch release number. Yeah, you can see an example below. We decided that the different APIs that EVerest provides, like the async APIs or the energy management API from ChargeByte, that they are versioned separately. So if you update, for example, from a major release to another, it could still be that in your use case, that is a backwards compatible update with respect to the stable APIs, but you would need to check these individual versions. But in our view, it doesn't really make sense to put all of that under a version number that you then somehow try to interpret it. That doesn't really work in our view. Yeah, the branch types are just like main for active development for the next releases. So we will add new features, bug fixes, and potentially breaking changes, but we commit to like in the best effort to reduce them to a minimum. And for the stable release branches, we create a stable line with the year and the month. And to this, we only like include or port backwards compatible changes. That could be bug fixes, security updates, individual feature backports that do not break existing APIs. They may extend them, but they do not break them. Yeah, that's the summary of that. Yeah, I think there are a couple of steps to do. So everything that you saw on the slides, I think we should document and make available publicly in the open source repository. My idea would be that I mean Pionix, we will create like a draft for this. And I encourage the community to review and comment because, yeah, there will be some important things in there that we as developers and contributors commit to work on and what needs to be seen if you develop EVerest, because a couple of things changed with the integration of these or introduction of these stable releases and backports. And yeah, when this documentation is in place, I think we are ready to go to apply them and want to start this with the publication of the first stable release, which will probably be January.
Thanks a lot. Let's go to road mapping. We are currently in the end of year process of creating roadmap. In principle, everyone is invited here for the next couple of weeks. Let's go to the next slide to provide feedback. We want to agree on the final roadmap things by the TSC in 22nd of January, so on the next TSC, and 6 days later we have the annual review of the EVerest project, and by then we have to present the 2026 roadmap. And the current discussion status we got from different working groups, there was sometimes very deep participation, sometimes only shallow. So on the next slides, maybe Pete, you can walk through it. The current discussion version If you see anything wrong there, please just email to through the EVerest mailing list, or just contact me directly if you have any input on the roadmap. If you have more wishes, like you would like to see other things, or if you would like to contribute other things, which would be even better. Ideally, those both overlap. Just email us, and then we are happy to include it. And yeah, let's walk through it. Pete, you're on mute.
Yeah, we split this up to just the first half and the second half of 2026. There is the plan to unify the storage of the different OSPP versions. They are currently separated, and to allow runtime switching between the OSPP versions. Currently, a restart of EVerest is required for this. We also plan for a deeper EVerest integration for the device model. First steps have been done already for this. Yeah, we plan to extend this as well. And then, yeah, there's also a big focus on OSPP 2.1, especially bidirectional support and EMS integration. And in the second half of the year, we hope we can have a look at DER. We may do it a little bit earlier, and also the other parts that came with the OSPP 2.1 specification, like cost calculation, prepaid, event streams, and other things. Yeah, for ISO 15118, that's there's this overlap that there's a big focus on bidirectional, but especially for AC and DC, we are already quite far for this. So there are some remaining things we wanted to add for the Dash 2 certificate update and smart charging, which haven't been used a lot by EVs, but get more adoption in the market as far as we hear. So we want to add this. And of course, we still want to focus on ISO 15118-20, including plug and charge, DER, and also extend lib ISO 15118 with a Dash 2 implementation is planned.
Just to complete this, I think plug and charge for the ISO Dash 2, we already got EVerest certified. Everyone, as mentioned, the last TSC can even get discount for certifying whole chargers on this. And I think on smart charging, just to be clear, so EVerest can do smart charging, just not the ISO communication on that, which was so far a very exotic case. So let's go to the energy management roadmap.
Yeah, it overlaps basically with OSPP and ISO. So continuous integration of bidirectional support. You of course also need to make changes to the energy management for this. The EBus integration is still ongoing, but I think we're pretty close in getting this merged. And there are plans to extend this further with further use cases, and also add dynamic load balancing support. And then in the second half of the year, we plan to look into a more advanced energy management, and also into interesting protocols like Matter or also OpenADR, and for an integration of those.
Yeah. On Matter, I'm currently talking to a couple of companies from that consortia, and I think it really feels like this would be the future home automation standard, and so many companies supporting that behind the scene. It will take a while until every smart light bulb is Matter compatible, but it's now happening. And then you can do fancy things like, Alexa, charge my car until tomorrow morning, 7 o'clock, and I need at least 200 miles of range. And that would be enabled by that, and many more things. So what else? Quick event recap. We had one big thing 2 days ago, that was the EVerest CPO forum kickoff. Why have we done that? If you're just looking in our ecosystem with the EV charging manufacturers in the center and all the component suppliers on the side, and governmental, or let's say research entities on the other end, and the open source community, we missed that edge of charge point operators. They are super important here because they have to live with the stuff this community is coding. They're experiencing it in long term. And if you're just looking on the sticker wall, those are basically a few of those stickers clustered by which edge is this applying to. And yeah, the CPO logos are missing. So we started that CPO initiative. Here are the people who publicly admitted that they have been on the first meeting. And we got a couple of big ones in the room, like Amazon was there, very enthusiastic about EVerest. We got DHL, we got ENBW, and many, many more. And the things we discussed, like, yeah, what would be a successful outcome after 1 year if the CPO forum is going? And it turned out, yeah, CPMS testing is a big issue. Maintenance is an issue. Onboarding charger, getting stabilized firmware, and getting like a CPO requirements document, like what does a good EVerest means from a CPO perspective? Because, as you know, EVerest can be meaning a lot of things with our powerful configuration options, and maybe putting some guardrails on this. It looks like we'll get monthly meeting. That was the majority in the room. And if you also look like what are the problems you have currently out there, which you need to get solved, it was a lot about firmware stability. OCPP error codes was, I think, 6 times voted. Configuration, like chargers behave different. That new and consistent OCPP versioning was a big pain. Debuggabilities of chargers, because sometimes chargers don't even know that they are broken. So certain error classes are the software is currently blind to, and they would love if EVerest can do this better. And I hope we do already. Then this entire CPMS onboarding and testing, a huge pain is every CPMS out there have to spend a lot of time on onboarding different chargers, and if more of them would run on EVerest, they would love it. Then also network or IP connectivity, uplink to the internet. If this is shitty, a lot of things starting to break, even though there's a bit of internet, having an uplink which is working also with shitty internet is something what could help them. And then all the car vehicle compatibility testing, ISO, you name it, char and plug char and testivals. This is a big point for them. They would love having good documentation. And also they see often vendor logins on different things, like even vendor login with certain CPMSs, with certain software stacks. And so not only about the charging station vendor. So this was also from a lot of different directions in the room mentioned. Yeah, as I said, we had the first meeting done. This will become a series, probably something like a dedicated working group within EVerest. Quite a few of those people in the room committed resources. Also, again, thanks to Quello, they, as an integrated CPMS, no, I'm not sure if you have CPMS, it's an integrated EVSE manufacturer and charge point operator. I think you had been an interesting role model in that meeting. And yeah, we'll report on how this will go on, and it will be an EVerest working group. So like the OCP and Cloud Working Group, and we'll probably get also monthly updates into the TSC. Upcoming events, EVerest annual review, as I mentioned, end of January. There will be the FOSDEM NAD Dev Room. I got a talk about EVerest testing and toolchain approved for that. Then there's discussion about the Distribute Tech in San Diego just a few days later. I know LFE will have a booth there, and if someone wants to be co-joining that booth on presenting EVerest, would be highly appreciated. Also think about sending someone over from Pionix. Not sure yet if we can do that. EV Charging Summit, I heard great things about. It's just 6 weeks later. Curious who will be there, and again, Power to Drive, the big event. And probably there's so much more missing. All the plug fests, all the festivals, haven't listed them yet, and also not sure if most of the dates are out yet. But please email us when we missed something. Yeah, the next EVerest Technical Steering Committee will be on 22nd of January, same time again, but this 5 weeks break, and not sure how much will happen because a lot of the time until then is a seasonal break. But I hope the monorepo things are done, and by then we should be close to the first stable release. Okay, thanks a lot for your time. let's switch to the discussion and to the voting, and we'll stop the recording here.